The rhythmic clatter of the train wheels against the frozen tracks did little to soothe my nerves. As I stared out into the pitch-black darkness of the Vermont wilderness, the events of the last few days played over in my mind like a bad movie. Reality, I mused, often has a way of being far stranger than fiction. Yet, no matter how hard I tried, my rational mind refused to accept the absurdity of the situation. It was only 2 days ago that Bill and I were sitting in my Boston apartment, arguing until 1 in the morning. It was one of those heated, pointless debates that old friends often fall into when the whiskey flows a little too freely. We were both stubborn, and by the end of it, we were trading personal insults rather than logic. "You've become soft, Ben," Bill had scoffed, swirling the ice in his glass. "Living in this concrete jungle, you think you're safe under your street lights and security cameras. You think the wilderness is just a place for weekend camping. But try spending a night alone at the Blackwood restoration site. You'd realize that out there, in the dark, your city logic means nothing." I had laughed, perhaps a bit too arrogantly. Why would I need to? And since when did you start believing in ghosts? Why do spirits only haunt dilapidated shacks and forests? Why don't they ever show up in a well-lit Starbucks? Bill had slammed his glass down, clearly stung. "You don't have to prove anything to me. It's not about the ghosts proving they exist. It's about whether you have the guts to face the unknown. If you had any courage, you'd come up to Blackwood Manor." "If I ever do," I had retorted with a sneer. "I certainly won't be cowering outside the manor like you apparently do." The next morning, the tension had evaporated. I drove him to South Station for his train back to the site. We didn't mention the argument. He was heading back to the remote copper mine restoration project he had been managing for 2 years deep in the Green Mountains. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, just past noon, a telegram arrived that turned my blood cold. "Bill, critical. Come immediately. Accident." There was no question of not going, but getting there was a logistical nightmare. The destination was a forgotten flagstop station in northern Vermont, followed by a 10-mile trek into the dense forest to reach the old mining camp. Bill lived there in isolation with a crew of local laborers. If he was critically ill or injured out there, help was miles away. I packed a bag and caught the first train north. It was a painfully slow local service, the kind that stops at every rusted signpost. As the hours dragged on, my anxiety mounted. Bill was tough. He was built like a linebacker and had the constitution of an ox. For him to send an SOS meant something catastrophic had happened. The train crawled through the night. It was nearly 4 a.m. when the conductor announced my stop. The train hissed to a halt at a place that barely qualified as a station. It was little more than a wooden platform covered in ice, illuminated by a single dying oil lamp struggling against the heavy fog. I stepped down, the cold biting through my coat instantly. As the train pulled away, the taillights swallowed by the mist. The silence crashed down on me. It was deafening. I was alone in a void of grey fog and black trees. I needed directions. I knew the camp was 10 miles out, but I had no idea which way to walk. There was no station master, no ticket booth, just a small, locked shack. Then I heard it. A sound like a growl, or perhaps a very deep, rasping cough. I spun around. Through the swirling fog, I saw a faint blue light bobbing in the distance. As it floated closer, a massive shape materialized. It looked less like a man and more like a walking mountain. The figure was wrapped in layers of heavy blankets and a thick wool scarf that covered everything but the eyes. A pair of bright, piercing eyes stared at me from a gap in the wool. The rest of the body was lost in the shadows, but I saw a pair of massive, gloved hands. "Excuse me," I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you tell me the way to the Blackwood copper mine?" The blue light paused. A voice, deep and muffled, like rocks grinding together, rumbled from beneath the layers of wool. "The mine? Where the old manor is?" The figure stepped closer. The blue lantern swung near my face, blinding me for a second. "Why go there? That place is cursed." "I have to go," I said, pulling out the telegram. "My friend is there. He's sick." The figure didn't look at the paper. Instead, a massive furry hand. It looked like a bear's paw in the dim light, snatched the paper from me. He glanced at it, then pointed a thick finger toward a narrow trail disappearing into the tree line. "Follow the track, don't stop, and watch out for the mist." Before I could ask anything else, the blue lantern abruptly turned off. In the blink of an eye, the massive figure seemed to vanish into the fog, moving with a speed that defied his size. I was alone again. I had no choice but to follow the path he pointed out. The trek was grueling. For 4 hours, I walked through a forest so dense that the morning sun barely penetrated the canopy. Not a bird sang. It was a dead silence. Finally, the trail opened up into a clearing. I saw a cluster of small shacks, and looming behind them on a rocky hill, the ruins of a massive structure, the Blackwood Manor. I hurried toward the only building that looked habitable, a bungalow-style cabin with a tin roof. This had to be Bill's quarters. I knocked on the door. No answer. I pushed it open. The living room was empty. A few wicker chairs, a table, and a curtain leading to the back room. "Bill?" I called out. Suddenly, footsteps approached from behind. I spun around, ready to see my friend. Instead, a man entered who looked like a walking caricature. He was over 6 feet tall, but impossibly thin, like a scarecrow made of sticks. His eyes were wide and frantic. "Where is Bill?" I asked. "I'm Ben. I got a telegram." The man looked at me with a strange mix of pity and fear. He wrung his long, bony hands. "The engineer, Bill. He is gone, sir." "Gone? Gone where?" To the hospital? The man shook his head slowly. No, sir. Gone from this world. I collapsed into a chair, the room spinning. Slowly, the man, who introduced himself as Silas, the camp foreman, told me the story. Bill hadn't died of an illness. It was far worse. According to Silas, after returning from Boston, Bill had been in a foul mood. Despite the warnings of the local crew, he had insisted on spending the night alone in the ruined Blackwood Manor to prove a point. The locals believed the manor was haunted by vengeful spirits from the Civil War era. We heard a scream in the night, Silas whispered, his eyes darting around. We found him in the courtyard at dawn, his head smashed, like he was thrown from the balcony. He woke up for just a few minutes before he passed. He told me to wire you, but then he died at 4 p.m. yesterday. Silas continued, his voice trembling. The workers, they all ran away. They say the ghost of the general took him. They wouldn't even stay to bury him properly. They just fled. I am the only one left, just to tell you. I sat there, stunned. My friend was dead. And in a way, I felt responsible. My taunts about ghosts had driven him to that accursed house. But as the shock wore off, a cold resolve settled in my gut. Accident? Ghost? I didn't buy it. Bill was a careful man. Someone or something was responsible. Silas, I said, standing up. Where is the body? Taken to the town morgue, sir, by the sheriff this morning. Good. Now listen to me. I'm going to stay here tonight. Silas looked horrified. Here? No, sir. We must leave before sunset. No, I said firmly. Not just here. I'm going up to the manor. I'm spending the night in the exact room where Bill stayed. Silas gasped, backing away. You cannot. It is death. I don't care. I have a promise to keep. I checked my watch. It was noon. I had a few hours to prepare. I had a heavy-duty flashlight and a tire iron I had instinctively grabbed from the station platform. Ghost or human, whoever hurt Bill was going to answer to me. Silas didn't stick around. He had promised to return by evening with the local sheriff, or at least some backup. But as the winter sun began to dip behind the pines, casting long skeletal shadows across the snow, I knew he wasn't coming back. The fear in his eyes had been primal. I was on my own. The temperature plummeted as twilight set in. I zipped my parka up to my chin, gripped the cold steel of the tire iron in one hand and my heavy-duty flashlight in the other, and began the climb toward Blackwood Manor. The house was a monstrosity of decaying Victorian architecture. It sat on the hill like a brooding vulture, its dark windows staring down at the abandoned mining camp. Vines, now frozen and brown, crawled up the brickwork, penetrating the cracks in the masonry. The front door was missing entirely, leaving a gaping maw that whistled with the wind. I stepped inside. The air was heavy with the smell of wet rot and ancient dust. My flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing a grand foyer that had been surrendered to nature. Snow had drifted in through broken windows, and dead leaves scurried across the floorboards like dry, scratching insects. The layout was a nightmare, a labyrinth of connecting rooms, hallways that dead-ended, and staircases that seemed to twist back on themselves. It was easy to see how one could get disoriented here, even without the threat of ghosts. I made my way to the second floor, assuming Bill would have chosen a room that was at least somewhat defensible. The floorboards groaned in protest under my boots. I checked room after room, finding nothing but shredded curtains and broken furniture. Then I found it. It was a large bedroom at the end of the east wing. It was slightly less ruined than the others. There was a rusted iron bed frame, a fireplace clogged with debris, and a heavy oak wardrobe that leaned precariously against the wall. But what caught my eye was lying on the floor near the window, a leather satchel. I recognized it immediately. It was Bill's custom-made messenger bag. I knelt and opened it. Inside, tucked into a side pocket, was a wad of fresh $20 bills and a handful of loose change. In another compartment, I found a scrap of paper with my Boston address scrawled on it in Bill's handwriting. This was definitive proof. Bill had been here the night he died. And if this was a robbery, the thief had done a terrible job, leaving behind cash and a high-quality bag. A chill that had nothing to do with the weather settled in my bones. I decided this was the spot. If Bill's spirit or his killer was anywhere, they would be here. I didn't want to waste my flashlight batteries, so I set up a candle I had brought from the camp on a crate in the center of the room. The flame flickered, casting dancing shadows that made the peeling wallpaper look like it was moving. I sat on the edge of the rusted bed frame, the tire iron across my lap, and waited. An hour passed, then two. The silence of the Vermont woods is usually absolute, but inside the manor, the house seemed to breathe. Boards settled. The wind moaned in the chimney. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the room directly next to mine. I jumped up, heart hammering against my ribs. It sounded like a pile of bricks had been toppled over. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice sounding thin and pathetic in the vast house. I grabbed the flashlight and sprinted into the next room, sweeping the beam into every corner. Empty. Absolutely empty. There were no bricks, no fallen furniture. Dust lay thick and undisturbed on the floor. I stood there for a moment, confused. I had heard it clearly. Shaking my head, I returned to the bedroom. The candle was out. I froze. There was no draft strong enough to extinguish it. I fumbled for my Zippo lighter, flicked it open, and relit the wick. As the light flared back up, I backed away toward the bed and nearly tripped. Lying in the middle of the room, right where I had just walked, was a pair of old, worn-out leather work boots. I stared at them, the blood draining from my face. I hadn't brought them. They hadn't been there 2 minutes ago. Someone was playing games with me. "All right?" I yelled, spinning around. "Come out. I know you're here." Silence. I sat back down, my grip on the tire iron tightening until my knuckles turned white. I wasn't going to be scared off. I watched the boots. If they moved, I was going to swing. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I was just starting to think my mind was playing tricks on me when it happened. "Ben." The whisper came from directly behind me. I spun around, swinging the flashlight wildly. Nothing. Just the bare wall. "Over here, Ben!" The voice shifted. It now seemed to come from the ceiling, or maybe from inside the walls. It was Bill's voice, but hollow, flat, lacking the warmth I knew. "Bill?" I choked out. "Is that you?" "It's me, Ben," the disembodied voice replied. "Don't shine the light around. It hurts my essence." "Where are you? Are you really dead?" "Dead is a strong word," the voice sighed. "I've crossed over, but I'm stuck, Ben. Stuck in this wretched house." "Why?" I asked, my skepticism warring with the terror of the moment. "Why haven't you moved on?" "Unfinished business," Bill's voice drifted from the corner near the wardrobe. "And bad company. I'm not alone here." "Who else is here?" "Confederate General Beauregard and a Union spy named Corporal Miller," Bill said. "They've been here since 1864. Nasty fellows." I frowned, trying to process this. Civil War ghosts in Vermont? "It's a long story," the voice said wearily. "The general fled north with a shipment of Confederate gold intended to fund a new uprising. He hid it in the cellar of this house. Before he could tell anyone the location, Corporal Miller tracked him down. They killed each other in a duel in the foyer. Now they're both stuck here, guarding gold that no one can spend." "And you?" I asked. "Why are you stuck?" "Because I know where the gold is now," Bill said. "The general told me. But I can't leave until I tell a living soul. But not just anyone. It has to be someone I trust. Someone who won't spend it on frivolous things like taxes." "Okay," I said, slowly standing up. "So tell me and you can be free." "I will," the voice said. "But first, could you put out the candle? It's interfering with my ectoplasm." "Bill," I said, narrowing my eyes. "Since when do you use words like ectoplasm?" "Since I became a spook. It's technical terminology. You wouldn't understand. Now, listen closely." Suddenly, a loud, sharp sound cut through the room. I blinked. "What was that?" "What was what?" the voice asked quickly. "That noise. It sounded like a hiccup." "No," the voice snapped defensively. "That was a spiritual tremor, a psychic shockwave." "There it is again," I said, stepping closer to the wardrobe. "Ghosts get hiccups?" "It's not a hiccup," the voice insisted, sounding increasingly agitated. "It's an involuntary ectoplasmic spasm. It happens when we try to manifest across dimensions. It's very painful." The sound was unmistakably coming from inside the heavy oak wardrobe. "Bill," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous low. "That sounds a lot like the result of too much carbonation." "You know nothing of the afterlife, Ben. Stay back. The radiation from the spectral plane will melt your face." "Melt my face, huh?" "Yes, like the Nazis in Indiana Jones. Don't open the..." My fear evaporated, replaced instantly by a surge of adrenaline and annoyance. I marched toward the wardrobe. "Ben, I'm warning you. General Beauregard is right behind you with a saber." I ignored the threat. I grabbed the handles of the wardrobe doors. "Don't do it, Ben! The horror! The horror!" I ripped the doors open. The wardrobe doors swung open with a rusty screech, and my flashlight beam cut through the darkness to reveal the terrifying entity within. There, squeezed between a moth-eaten wool coat and the back panel of the wardrobe, sat Bill. He wasn't floating. He wasn't translucent. He was wearing a thick flannel shirt, thermal pants, and a very sheepish expression. In one hand, he clutched a half-empty 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. He blinked in the harsh light, shielded his eyes with his free hand, and then, with perfect comedic timing, let out another loud, involuntary sound. "Huh!" "Surprise?" Bill offered weakly, a crooked grin spreading across his face. I stood there for a full 10 seconds, the tire iron dangling uselessly at my side. My brain was trying to shift gears from fight for survival mode to strangle my best friend mode. I stammered, breathless. "You are alive." "Alive and kicking," Bill said, unfolding his long legs and groaning as he crawled out of the cramped space. "Though my back is killing me. I've been in there for 20 minutes waiting for the right moment to jump out." "The right moment?" I shouted, the echo bouncing off the peeling walls. "You let me think you were dead. The telegram, the sheriff, Silas." Bill dusted off his pants and took another swig of soda. Okay, calm down. Let me explain. It was the only way to get you up here. After our argument in Boston, I realized you'd never come just for a visit. You're too stubborn. I had to raise the stakes. I collapsed onto the rusted bed frame, rubbing my temples. "You faked your own death to win a bet?" "Technically, I didn't say I was dead in the telegram," Bill pointed out, holding up a finger. "It said critical. And Silas never said dead either. He said I was gone from this world, which metaphorically I am, living out here in the sticks. And the engineer is gone just meant I wasn't in the cabin." "And the morgue?" "Silas said the sheriff took the body away. He didn't say my body. They actually moved an old mannequin we found in the attic this morning." I glared at him. "And the bear man at the station? The one with the glowing blue eyes?" Bill laughed, a genuine booming laugh that filled the room. "That was Jack, my site foreman. He's a big guy, used to play defensive tackle. We wrapped him in 3 layers of blankets and a bear hide rug. The blue light was just a modified LED lantern. He's been practicing that gravelly voice for a week." "And the boots?" I asked, looking at the footwear on the floor. "The crashing noises?" "That was all me," Bill admitted proudly. "I know the secret passages in this house better than anyone. There's a servant's corridor right behind this wall. I tossed the boots in when you weren't looking, then ran around to the other side to make the crashing sound. I was going for a poltergeist vibe." "You sick, twisted genius," I muttered, shaking my head. I couldn't help it. A smile was tugging at the corners of my mouth. I almost had a heart attack. "Almost?" Bill grinned. "But admit it, Ben, for a few hours there you believed. You felt the fear. You realize that logic doesn't cover everything in the dark. I realize that my best friend has way too much free time, I retorted. And your ectoplasmic spasm ruined your big finale. Bill looked at the Dr. Pepper bottle with regret. Yeah, note to self. Carbonated beverages are a bad idea during a stealth haunt. I was going to give you a speech about the curse of the gold and then vanish into a smoke bomb, but the hiccups started. See? Still happening. The tension in the room had completely evaporated, replaced by the warmth of relief. Outside, the wind howled around the eaves of Blackwood Manor, but the sound was no longer menacing. It was just the wind. So, I said, standing up and pocketing my flashlight. There is no General Beauregard? No Corporal Miller? Oh, the General is real, Bill said, grabbing his bag. Or at least, he was real history. But he's not here. The only thing haunting this house tonight was 2 idiots from Boston. He clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder. Come on, Jack has a fire going down at the bunkhouse, and he's got a pot of venison stew that's actually edible. And I think I owe you a drink. A real one, not Dr. Pepper. You owe me the train fare, the therapy bills, and a bottle of top-shelf scotch. I corrected him as we walked out of the room. Deal, Bill agreed. We made our way down the creaking staircase, leaving the darkness of Blackwood Manor behind us. As we stepped out into the snowy night, the air felt crisp and clean. The ghost of Blackwood Manor had been exorcised, not by a priest, but by a hiccup. And as we trudged through the snow toward the warm glow of the camp below, I knew this was a story Bill would never let me forget. And honestly, neither would I.